Welcome to the Fabled Academy podcast. I am your host Alex, and today I'm joined by Brodie Spurlock and Michael Hamilton. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us, Alex.
Hey, Alex. Excited to be here and chat about our team, the Wolfpack. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk to you again on the channel. We've spent quite some time along the journey in the last years where we've gotten to know each other on the channel. And so I'm really excited to talk to you both today about what makes the Wolfpack, but not only the Wolfpack, what makes a great team in Flesh and Blood in general, and what are you guys up to in this year?
Yeah, I'm excited.
So,
Let's dive into it.
Yeah, let's start with the first question. We have some spicy questions prepared, and the first one I'm really interested in hearing your opinion on is, what are actually the ingredients for building a great team in Flesh and Blood?
I think the number one thing that matters for finding a team that'll really work well is just the people involved, finding people that like each other, get along well, and more or less have kind of the same goals in the way they want to approach the team. Like in the Wolfpack, one of our biggest priorities over the last couple of years has been finding people that we feel really fit like the vibe of the team and just making sure everyone likes each other and we're all friends, because that makes it so much easier for us to get work done and like have discussions about things that work and don't work. Because especially if you're going to be like a competitive Flesh and Blood team that's trying to find the most efficient way to use your time and test and prepare for these big tournaments, it's important to continue trying to improve your process. And there are going to be like quite a few disagreements, or at least things that need discussion. So a group of people that all respect each other and can agree to disagree or like find a way to compromise on things well without having any fallouts or big arguments is going to be really important, I think, to have like continued success with the team. So I feel like with the Wolfpack, that's the number one thing that makes our team shine, is we just all really like each other as people, and we put having fun first. Even though we all really want to do well and win, we know that prioritizing the relationships and making sure everybody's having a good time is going to A, be more fun, and B, is going to lead to more success for all of us.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I think the only thing I want to add to that is good leadership is also really important, which is kind of like vague, but I think Zach Bunn, the leader of the Wolfpack, though he might fight you on that. He might say there's no leader, but he's definitely our leader. He does a really good job at, like, when conflicts have arisen, he kind of publicly addresses them and then reaches out to like both sides of the conflict, being like, hey, I want to make sure that we understand your whole side of it. How do you feel about everything? Are you comfortable with like the resolution we've reached? And I think he also just does a lot to kind of reinforce like the things that Brodie talked about. Everyone's there to have fun. We want to do well, but like I guess having leadership that like don't know what the word that I'm looking for is, like envelops your core values and kind of like stresses them and pushes them to like the forefront of things a lot of the time is also really important and really helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting part about building a team, is actually someone who leads the team and who shapes the way the team wants to act in a group. And I have seen that first sight at the Pro Tour Baltimore, where we have actually spent all the time at the weekend together. And it was so amazing to see that everyone on the team really has their own potential and their own personality to it. But then there's also this team vibe where you can really feel that on the Team Wolfpack, you guys really have these ingredients mixed up together, and there are also people taking care of this. And you're also sharing this vision together. So I think everybody that is watching this episode and who either have a team or is looking to build a team, whether it's casual or more competitive, these things are really important to build a team and then going forward. But let's focus a little bit more on the competitive side, because Flesh and Blood is a really competitive game. And of course, the teams who are performing on the highest levels, just like your team, the Wolfpack, is looking to gain the best results at the tournaments that you guys are entering in. And so I'm really interested in hearing your opinion on what really makes the best team in Flesh and Blood.
So I think it's hard to point at a team and be like, this is the best team in the game. Like, I guess you could compare results and like maybe you try to assign like a point value to X results of different things, but then some teams are bigger than others. There's a lot of like other factors that you'd have to compare to like have an exact, this is the best team. So I personally don't think there is a best team in Flesh and Blood. There probably never will be unless a team's like winning and being like all the top slots or something, then like maybe you can be like, okay, their results are far ahead of everyone else. But like the Wolfpack does really well. The Runaways are doing really well. I think Team Blue Pitch, though I don't know them nearly as well, they're also like, they kind of kicked our butts at Worlds. So I think that trying to be like, there's X team is the best team, not the most useful conversation. But I will say, I think the Wolfpack's the best team for me because kind of like what we were talking about before, I really get along with everyone. I really like how the team is structured, how our goals are to first have a good time and be friends with each other, enjoy playing the game, and second, results are after that. So that's kind of my answer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like the Wolfpack is the best team for me because I like share a lot of the same core values that like are what defines the team. And like when I joined, I was given like, here are kind of the way we do things, and here are the things that are really important to us. Do all of these things match how you feel and what you want out of a team? And I was like, yes, 100%. This is exactly what I'm looking for. So I think like for that reason, the Wolfpack, like Michael said, is the best team for me. I think from like a competitive gameplay point of view, some of the things that contribute to making your team the best it can be, like if you're trying to build or you're part of your own Flesh and Blood team, some of the biggest contributing factors are I think specialists, like having ideally a wide range of players, but some teams are very successful and are smaller with just people who play different things. Even if you don't have a bunch of people and you don't have a specialist on every hero, having people who like their strengths are your weaknesses and you can complement each other and help each other with the things you're bad at. That's something I've found in the Wolfpack. There are some people who are very good at particular heroes or even particular like subsets of skills in the game. Like I spend a lot of time with Michael Fang, and I feel like some of the things I naturally struggle with, he's really good at, and vice versa, and we can complement each other, and I find that with other members of the team too. So different people who are good at different things. I think communication and organization, like basically always being willing to question your process and try to improve it. That's something that I know several of the top teams right now really try to do, is like constantly ask like, what could we be doing better? What didn't work last season that we want to try to improve? We had a lot of those conversations in the Wolfpack, and I know other teams do that too. And once again, above all, just liking the people that you're doing it with and having the team be like a safe, fun space, because that makes people feel a lot more willing to share their thoughts. And if everyone feels comfortable contributing and hearing everyone's voices, then I think things will run smoother and you'll make a lot more progress because there'll be more ideas in the mix.
Yeah, I think that's so important what you're bringing up, and I can just remember so good that when we were spending this time together at Proto Baltimore, you could really sense that, of course, you guys are really competitive, but you're also having this group mentality that first and foremost, it's the most important part to be together and have fun while playing. And then winning and competing at these tournaments is, of course, after that. And Zekban even said it widely in the video we made together, that of course you guys have these goals and you want to achieve certain things in the game, but first and foremost, the people are the most important part of it. And I think that also reflects in what you guys are bringing to the table, but also what teams in Flesh and Blood, I think in general, makes it really unique, because of course you're competing with the other teams, right? You guys are taking it on in the games and you want to win, of course. But you're also knowing each other pretty well across all these different teams. Of course, some teams you know better, the other teams you don't see that often on the tournaments. But there is a group mentality not only in one of the teams, but I feel like, more importantly, most of the teams that compete in these tournaments are not there to bash each other, but rather to compete with each other and then gain experience off of that together. So
Yeah, and I really like
it's-
that kind of tends to be true across like all of Flesh and Blood, not just in our team, not just in like these top teams, just in general in pretty much every community I visit. I feel like the people aspect kind of shines through and is the number one thing that's drawing people in. Like, people come to Flesh and Blood for different reasons. Maybe they're there because they really want to compete, or they just enjoy playing the game and they're not looking for a particular result, or maybe they're not even playing that much. They're there to like cosplay or otherwise engage in like the world of break. But the thing that is consistent across like everybody in the hall in these big venues is that they all are like there to see their friends and make new friends. And I feel like it's the best TCG community out there in terms of like friendliness and just camaraderie, and those things make it so much more fun to do this traveling and go to these events. And I am constantly amazed by like how consistent that is across the whole world, anywhere where people play Fab.
Yeah, I think Brodie put it really well. This game just has probably the best community I've seen in a game that I've played before. Like, I played Smash for a while, and there was like your local scene, a lot of the people would be pretty close. But when you went to like bigger tournaments, when you went to a different state, it was like everyone felt kind of like strangers. It was like their community against your community kind of. But like in Flesh and Blood, you go to a tournament in Europe and everyone's just like very friendly, very kind. You go, like, I guess I've only really been to Europe and North America for tournaments, but all good experiences.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that really resonates with a lot of the people that are in this community, and that is for sure a reason that most of us are here and that we enjoy this time together. When watching content online, being at the tournaments, competing, getting to know each other. And I think it's also a really interesting part about our question, what makes a team the best team in Flesh and Blood? And I think there's really not one particular answer to it, but rather there is the time for a team to be the best they can, just like you guys had your best run ever at the Pro Tour in Baltimore. And who knows if this will happen again in this year, maybe at the next Pro Tour or the World Championship. And then, for example, at the World Championship, just like you said, Michael, the Team Blue Pitch had just such an amazing run. They had such a great performance. And then another tournament again, the Runaways might be the best performing team. I think the US Nationals was that kind of a tournament. And that makes it really interesting because Flesh and Blood is still young, right? And there is this period in time where a lot of tournaments have been held in the future, and maybe one of the teams crystallizes itself as, oh, this is the team that not only has won the World Championship once, but maybe 2 or 3 times in a row. But we're definitely not there yet. And I think this is such an amazing time to be in because we are all growing together, and the future holds so much for all the teams out there competing in this game, and maybe even a team that is not there yet, but that will be very successful in the future when entering.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think we want to really touch on Team Wolfpack from now on in more specific questions. And for that, I want to bring up a question about the last year. And that is, what was really the most difficult moment for the team in the last year? Maybe something that you guys struggled with, or where you come to a close border where you had difficulties.
So I really appreciate you setting us the list of questions in advance, because I do not think I would be able to answer this question on the spot. But after taking some time to think about it, I think our hardest point was actually leading up to Pro Tour Baltimore, which was our best event. But there was a lot of panic leading up to that event. We kind of identified Lexi was very good reasonably ahead of time. So we were initially like doing a lot of Lexi testing with Lexi and testing against Lexi. And then maybe about a little less than a month out, we had found an Oldheim deck that we thought was quite good into Lexi and was able to consistently beat it. But the more a few of us played with the deck and played as Lexi against it, we were just like not having consistent results, or some of us were saying we had consistent results, others weren't. And there was like just a lot of mixed opinions and a lot of panic, honestly, because this was like a big tournament for us. We did just won Worlds. We wanted to do really well at the Pro Tour. We wanted everything to go great. And so this like uncertainty, even leading into the week of the event, a lot of us weren't even locked on a deck a week before. And it was just a really, really hard time having so much panic and stress before that tournament.
Yeah, so I think that week, in addition to a lot of people being torn between CC decks, another thing contributing to all the stress in the week before Baltimore was the limited format. Because unlike this current heavy hitters meta, where we are getting these big callings and a whole RTM season of draft to prepare, and pretty much no matter where in the world you are, you can get your hands on some heavy hitters practice at sanctioned events before the Pro Tour. In Baltimore, Outsiders released in, I think, late March, and the Pro Tour was like just under a month later, April 20 something. So we really didn't get that much of a chance to play a lot of in-person Outsiders draft. We did some online, and some of us played with our locals or whatever, but we wanted to spend, or at least I wanted to spend a lot of my time actually in Baltimore testing draft, and I wanted to have CC pretty much done by the time I got there. So I was one of the people who actually decided to switch decks despite playing Lexi pretty much the whole testing period and always playing the Lexi Oldhim matchup from that side. I just felt like I wasn't beating Oldhim as consistently as I wanted to, and the Oldhim list seemed to be having a lot of success. So I fully jumped ship, left my Lexi cards at home in Texas, and said, I'm locked in, I'm playing Oldhim, let's go practice draft. So I fly to Baltimore. I'm there in between my drafts. I'm trying to get some advice on Oldhim from our players on the team who are bringing him to the tournament and are way more experienced with the hero than I am, just asking them questions about matchups, deck list. And I remember Thursday morning, the day before round one, I'm messaging Michael Fang as he's, I think, on his way to the hotel, just asking him some questions about Oldham's matchups and stuff. And at some point, he messages back and is like, Brodie, these are not questions you can be asking if you're planning to play Oldhim in the Pro Tour the next day. This is not a good idea. So when Michael got to the hotel, the two of us went upstairs and played one fateful game of Lexi versus Oldhim, because Michael was another one of the people who had just kind of switched his plan for which hero to play. He had been away in, I think, Spain for a couple of weeks. He went on a vacation with his wife right before the Pro Tour, so he didn't have a ton of time to test in that last grind period leading up. And he was away just kind of seeing all the good things people were saying about Lexi in our chats. And he was like, you know what, this hero seems good. I'm just going to try to jump ship to it and leave behind Oldhim, even though he was probably the most experienced Oldhim player on our team, if not one of. He knew that hero better than any other. And so Michael wants to play Lexi. I want to play Oldhim. We play one fateful game. And by the end of it, I think we both kind of realized we were making the wrong choice. And especially since the heroes are so close and our whole team is split and can't decide which one to play, we should definitely just be playing the one that we have more experience on. So we switched back. Michael gave me his Lexi cards that he brought to play at the Pro Tour because I left mine at home. And then he was smart enough to bring both decks, so he just played his own Oldhim cards. And flash forward to the 14th round of Swiss, Michael and I found each other at table 1 in CC. It was his cards against his cards, Lexi versus Oldhim. We were both locked for top 8, and I made the top 8 of the event, and he went on to win the whole thing. So that was definitely our most stressful week of the year, but also ended up being a very successful one.
Yeah, that's kind of funny, right? The one moment that was the most stressful was actually the one that you succeeded the most on. And like that's an interesting part about life too, right? When life goes down, sometimes the sun goes up at the other end, and it seems like just you were describing exactly that. And I seemed to really have seen through this exactly weekend at the Pro Tour Baltimore that you guys had so many experiences as a team together, which you can clearly see in a lot of the footage that we captured together. But there are also some learnings that you can't see from this footage that we captured at the tournament. So I'm really curious to next know that what were really the learnings of this year then that you take into 2024, because you know we're not only playing in the Pro Tour Baltimore, but there were many other events that you are taking part in as a team.
Yeah, so we had several learnings throughout the year. some of them were, I think, a lot of people on our team kind of got better at learning to lock in heroes earlier, like we just gave with Pro Baltimore. Switching at the last minute like that is pretty dangerous, and it leads to oftentimes doing worse. Even if you're playing a hero that's definitely better, it's oftentimes going to serve you better to just play the one you know, because your lack of matchup knowledge and familiarity with your lines is going to lead to an overall worse performance. So I think we improved at that. We learned a lot of things about our processes, like how we test and some of the ways that we do and don't efficiently get stuff done. Like one thing that we, I think, learned from was some of our failures in preparing for limited, both in the amount of time that we spent on it as a team and for some of us as individuals, and also kind of like our approach to it as a group. I think as we grew, we were starting to get we were starting to get less efficient in our big group discussions because there were more and more voices to be heard, and it was difficult for everyone to contribute without the calls, or maybe it was an in-person meeting, just dragging on for hours and hours. And we are trying to find ways for everyone's voice to be heard without having these like 5+ hour meetings. It never actually got to that point, but that's what it felt like it was going to need to be if we were going to have the same level of limited discussion we were having when the team was smaller, and try to include everyone equally. So there's just a lot of growing pains, and I'll let Michael talk more about some of the things we learned as far as like trying to grow the team, but also keep things under control as we add more and more members.
Yeah, so basically 2023, and honestly a tiny bit at the end of 2022, we added a lot of members to the Wolfpack. It was like a much smaller team, and then I think we added, at one point we were talking about adding like 2 or 3 people, and then we were like, why don't we just add all these people we're thinking about adding? Not all of them, but we had like a list of people that we're like trying to figure out which ones we're going to add. And we're like, what if we add all 5 of these people? And eventually we were like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Let's see. Maybe the team will get too big. Maybe we'll have some issues. And then we did have issues. There are definitely some things you need to learn when your team gets bigger. One thing that I didn't really expect, because I'm not much of a planner. I'm kind of just like, I'll show up to the events that are planned, but we usually do like a team dinner at these big tournaments. And now that our team has about 20 people on it, it's really hard to find a place to eat dinner. One other thing that we kind of learned from having so many people on the team is that you really have to kind of prioritize spending time with the people that are at the events, because so many different people all have different travel plans to get there. And if you don't like set something up, like you can go to a tournament and just end up not spending any time with someone on the team because you're spending time with two or three other people on the team. And that wasn't something that really seemed like it was happening until the team got bigger. So just like being deliberate and organized is something that kind of we learned how important it is with the bigger team.
Yeah, that's a question that maybe for some of the teams listening may come up, or even has come up. And I think it's a really difficult part to navigate, right? Because there are so many problems that can occur, and so many then also new voices to interact with on a daily basis even, right? I think when building a team, it's like not only, okay, we occasionally meet up, it's like a bounding that you guys are striving for. And I think like along the way, there will be new learnings for sure. Even though the last year was so immense for your team, I'm really curious to hear now that like going into this year, and we are now in February, so the year has already started with a lot of interesting tournaments. What kind of changes are you arranging to focus to better on some of these things, and even strive maybe to do even better on some of these things?
Yeah. I touched on it before, but I think the biggest change, since we kind of learned this from last year, we were pretty unorganized. And I think we're prioritizing organization this year. We kind of split up our testing to have like set times where like the same people are planning to be at. So we're kind of like going to have like a small group of people. I shouldn't say small, a smaller subset of the team that's like meeting up regularly at these different weekly sessions. And then you can kind of check in with that small group, and they can kind of help each other. If someone's struggling, then you have like a smaller group to talk about it. Because a lot of the time with a huge group, if you're like, I'm struggling, and then there's 12 different people that have different opinions and advice for you, getting all that feedback at once, that doesn't really help. That's too much if you're struggling and then 12 different people tell you to do different things. But if you're struggling and you're talking with 4 or 5 people and one of them's like, hey, I really like this deck, I think this deck would fit you, or this strategy in this matchup, or whatever you're struggling with, like being split into smaller groups helps a lot, which feels like kind of subsets of the team, but I think it's something that we're trying out this year, and I think so far it's been working reasonably well. And then touching back a little bit on something Brodie was talking about earlier, for limited, we're definitely changing how we're doing limited meetings. I'll let you talk about that if you want to, Brodie.
Yeah, so for limited, we have explored a lot of different things in the past. Sometimes we'll like rate the different cards, or we'll have different systems for like how we break things down in the limited format. And part of the question every time is, when do we want to have these big group chats? Like we mentioned for Baltimore, there was no real draft season before the Pro Tour. It was just like set release, prep, Pro Tour. But right now with heavy hitters, we had set release, then we had the kind of 3 calling series of sealed and draft, and a lot of team members played at Calling Hartford. And then we have RTN season coming up, which is going to be partly draft. This is all before the Pro Tour. So we have to decide whether we want to have a meeting right off the bat to discuss the format with like initial impressions to get everyone ready for all these smaller events, but we don't have as much experience yet. Or if we want to do something right before the Pro Tour, once we've had all this time leading up and we've learned everything we can, and then we just kind of like unload and share all of our pooled knowledge so that we can do the best possible at the Pro Tour, or both. So just kind of planning a timeline with actual limited meetings themselves. I think we're still kind of deciding how we want to do it for heavy hitters right before the Pro Tour happens. It's possible that we want to implement something similar to what Michael was just talking about with our weekly practice. Like maybe we have some smaller limited discussions, and then we have kind of a designated like note taker session leader for each of those, and then those people come together and we try to have like kind of a concise conclusive something like document or something for the whole team to look over. Like, because there are so many people, having one big group meeting of 20 plus people might not be the most efficient way to do it. So I think a lot of our changes this year are of course related to the learnings we just mentioned. And then I think the number one thing for the Wolfpack is just that increased team size. Like this year, I really want to prioritize spending time with each member of the team when I can. Like Michael was mentioning, when we travel to events, it's harder to automatically interact with everyone when there are 10 plus of us. If it's less than 10, we often just like kind of automatically go eat dinner together afterwards, or we're in this one group, especially if it's like 5, 6, 7. But once you start to push into double digits, it's very difficult to get everyone together in one place, especially at like restaurants for meals. And like in Hartford, it was a little unusual for me because I was commentating the event, so I had even less time to mingle and chat with people than normal. But there were some of my teammates there who I think I in total said probably 5 words to in the weekend, just because of the lack of time and doing different things in the evenings. So I think that's one thing on a personal level, but also I think for the whole team that we're looking to improve on in 2024 is just making sure that we take those opportunities to spend time with our teammates when we can, especially the ones who don't travel to events as often. So it's kind of a special treat to get to see them at the majors.
Yeah, I think this comes back to what we were starting the podcast on, right? The core values of the team and the things that you guys prioritize when building the team. That really reflects for me here to not only you are thinking about, okay, how can we improve on our gameplays and on our skills in the game, but then focusing on the most important aspects of your team, the personal connections and the people that you are playing the game with, that you're going to these events and that you want to spend the time with. I have to say from my own experience, like the dinner that we had at the Pro Tour in Baltimore was amazing. So kudos to organizing that. It was really amazing. And we even had a really funny moment in the final video that a lot of people liked. I'm not sure if you can memorize what it was exactly, but yeah, it's so amazing to have this magic. I think experience it myself, but now also that you say that is a goal, a definitely goal for you as the team to take it in this year and to even maximize on it. It's difficult, right, Brodie? You said it, that you can't really spend a lot of time with everyone, right? When you have a big family, you know that. When you have a lot of siblings, for example, it's really hard to spend time with everyone equally, but it's important to take care of each other and to look for each other and to look after. And it really feels here that these moments that you describe and these times that you want in this year are exactly this.
Yeah, I think my big goal for the Wolfpack in 2024, outside of like event performances, which of course we always want to do well, but as far as like the kind of team family, like what I want to see come out of this year is everyone feeling like they're getting out of the team as much as they're putting in, and all of us kind of improving our systems and organization and stuff so that everyone is taken care of and like people don't feel kind of lost before events, because as the team gets bigger, that's something we've had to watch out for in the past, and it's probably we're gonna be even more prone to it now, where somebody's kind of all alone on a hero, needs some work with matchups. So just want to make sure that we are continuing to find ways to like check in with everyone and make everyone feel like they're getting the prep they need, even though with so many people it can start to feel disconnected, and ultimately just make it continue to feel like a family, have those big team dinners, and just get to spend time with and enjoy all the people who we play Flesh and Blood with, because that's ultimately what we're here for at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think those things are really important, but there is one thing that we will celebrate if it happens. It's something that we have been talking about for as long as I can remember at these big events that a big group of the team goes to. And at the premier tier 4 events, there's usually like the main event, which is like the Pro Tour or Worlds or even US Nationals, we kind of lump in the same group. And then that starts on Friday. And then on Saturday, there's always a calling at these events. And then on Sunday, there's a battle hardened. So our goal, or something that I would say is a goal for the team, and I think most people on the team would agree, is to have a team member win all 3 of these tournaments in one weekend. And we call it the Triple Crown. And if that ever happens, you bet we'll all be celebrating.
Can confirm at every event we go to, if we get to the end of Saturday and we have people in the top 8 of the Pro Tour or whatever the big event is, and also people in day 2 of the calling, people start to chatter about the potential triple crown. If we have some people who are also playing the Battle Hardened, like that happened at Pro Tour this year and also Nats this year. And the Realm Rumble, I think, was the one where we got the closest. We won the 20K and the 10K, and there was a 5K on Sunday, but we didn't quite get there. So it continues to elude us, but one day the Wolfpack hopes to take home the Triple Crown.
US Nationals this year, we got kind of close as well. We had a person make the finals of the calling. We won the Battle Hardened, and then we had 2 in the top 8 of US Nationals. But it's tough to get all 3 in one weekend, but oh man.
Wow, so this really, I think, strikes here with what I've experienced with you guys too, because I remember closely that at the calling at where the weekend the Pro Tour Baltimore was happening, there was also a calling, and Zach was making the top 4, if I'm not mistaken, with Viscera, right? So
yeah,
that was pretty close too, and I remember the exact moment before the last day of the event where I was going with Tim and with Zach out of the venue, and Zach was so excited about this event happening. He was not mentioning the Triple Crown, but now it resonates really with me. This moment is even on camera and in the final video, where it really excites him, and not only Zach, but yourself too, and a lot of the other Wolves on the team. And I think that is a dream really to accomplish, and that I think differentiates the one teams that really want to strive at the highest competitive level and the ones that are only coming for the fun. And it is a really important part for your team as well, right? It's not only about the people, but also about getting this edge in the competitiveness and seeing like where can you break these boundaries, where you can really like bend, I guess is a good name to say, over the time, right? Where are the limits, so to say? And I think That was a good title to choose for the video at the Proto Baltimore 2. But now going into this year, you again want to bend the reality and break these limits.
Triple Crown.
Triple Crown 2024. We can hope. Yeah, I think for me, it's been the last like 2+ years of playing Fab. I started in December of 2021, so I guess like 27 months of Flesh and Blood now. I've learned so much about what you can do to be a stronger player and prepare better, especially at mixed format events, like how to balance my time and choose a hero and all these things that go into it. And then all the little things to keep in mind when you're at an event outside of just playing, like partly just like staying hydrated and eating well. That's something that I prioritize a lot. Of course, I have my bag of ham sandwiches handy, but just a lot of these things that I've learned over time have come from the Wolfpack. And I love that we all like really feel happy when our other team members succeed. We want the best for each other, and we're able to all help lift each other up so that we can achieve greatness in Flesh and Blood and hopefully one day take down the Triple Crown.
Yeah, it really shows that when you surround yourself with like-minded people, it really can give like a flow to each other. You lift each other up and you experience these big events with each other, and that forms a mentality together, not only as one of the players, but then as the team. And I want to bring up again these difficult topics for a team to handle, because you touched on a few of them, but I want to get some sparks here for the viewers to maybe learn for their own team and who are trying to build a team maybe. And I think a lot of topics that come up again and again when I talk to all the different teams out there in Flesh and Blood is these topics of money and the topics of advantage that can strive in these teams, like you experienced in the Wolfpack, for example, too. These informations that you get when testing together and when building these decks and when experiences are made at the tournament. So how really could you give some tips away for those teams out there who are trying to take these topics on, like splitting, for example, or these informations that is gained when testing together?
So in the Wolfpack, we don't do anything with each other's money. Like we're all just wanting each other to succeed because we'll be happy if our friends win a tournament. So we don't attach any monetary like splits or anything like that to it. We're just like, we're all going to help each other because we want each other to do well. And money, like if you win a tournament, great, you get a nice chunk of money, but that's yours. You won the tournament. So we kind of stay away from that. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to do that, but I think that like everyone's getting a benefit just from like in general when everyone's helping each other. Like I can't remember the phrase, a rising tide raises all ships or something. Like everyone's just going to do better when you're all working together. So I think that makes it less stressful. And then like you don't have to figure out all like the business and tax implications of splits and stuff, which I'm not, that's not something I really want to learn how it works. And I know there's some complexities there too. As far as information goes, I think we do get a pretty big advantage by having so many people to like bounce ideas off of, to work on decks together. I think the best way to emulate that is just like find a group of people that you get along with that are also trying to take the game seriously, and just like start talking to them about ideas, maybe make a Discord to start chatting with them. And then if other people are interested, start adding those people. And then as it grows, like you can eventually be like, do you guys want to be an actual official team? Or is this just like a little testing group that we're all looking for the same thing? Like just have those conversations, make sure you're on the same page. But even if you don't form an actual team, if you're just like a group of friends that are doing some testing together, you're going to benefit a lot from that. And it's like very similar to what you would get out of being on a formalized team.
Yeah, I want to ditto what Michael said. I think that you bring up a good point about it doesn't have to be an official team for you to get that same level of value and camaraderie out of it. There was a time when in 2022, before I ever joined an actual Flesh and Blood team, I was trying very hard to compete and do my best. And I was just meeting people. I was traveling to events. Like I live in Dallas, Texas. So I would go to Austin or San Antonio for, let's say, a Pro Quest or Road to Nationals, meet someone there, get their Discord handle, and I would just message them and be like, hey, you want to play some games? And we would just schedule some times to play, and I would just try to network like that and meet other people who were also passionate about the game and ideally had different specialties, like people especially who were good at heroes that I didn't know very well, or heroes that my locals didn't really play. Like when I was starting Fab, I was actually quite lucky, I think, in that I had several specialists in my local area. So I got to play against all these different kinds of heroes, even if they weren't popular in the meta at the time. But like Dorinthia was one that no one really played when I was first starting Fab in my local area, just as an example. So I would seek out other Dorinthia players and try to schedule games with them just so I could learn how to play against that hero. And I think it can just naturally progress from there. If you have a group of locals who all kind of want to take the next step and get better, then yeah, like start scheduling testing sessions outside of just the armories you play, and maybe that develops into an official team. But ultimately, I think the keys are just like, try to find like-minded people who want to get better at Flesh and Blood, want to spend their time focusing on Flesh and Blood, and ultimately just that you get along well with. I think as far as all of the like money stuff and prize splitting, like Michael said, we don't do that on the Wolfpack. We all just really want the best for each other. We encourage each other, and then if someone wins prizes, those are theirs. But I think that if you want to have some sort of prize splitting, or even like I've seen like PTI pooling concepts in the past where like for invites, the team will help each other out, and like I've got you covered if you don't queue for Pro Tour. You can get my PTI for through this system, or for I'll give you like a teammate discount, whatever it might be. I think just the key is to communicate about that kind of stuff and make sure you're all on the same page and actually agree with the system and feel comfortable with it going forward. And as long as that's the case, whatever works for you works. At the end of the day, I think the main things that we have kind of said over and over throughout this video in different ways that for me are the big keys are just find people you like to do it with, communicate and make sure everyone's voice is getting heard, and then try to continue to improve on your process and your organization in the team or just the group, whatever it is, because always questioning whether you're doing things as efficiently as possible or if you could be doing them better, I've found has helped us to improve a lot. So just never be afraid to ask questions and improve, because I think like unlike perhaps a lot of things in life, trading card game testing isn't something that has been deeply explored on like, let's say like a field of career or something. Like the most efficient way to do it probably no one's even scratched the surface of it, just because it is more of a niche thing in the world. So I think just continuing to try different things is great.
All right, guys, thank you so much for these really deep insights. And I think now it's to the viewers. I'm really curious that those who are still on, if you like, write in the comments if you are on a Flesh and Blood team and what are your goals for this year in the Flesh and Blood. I have to say that I think the team mentality is something that I really want to see grow in Flesh and Blood, because we have so much potential and there's so much positivity in it. And I'm so thankful that we had this podcast here together talking about it, because it's such an amazing topic to talk about. And also I want to thank you both for just this amazing time that we had. Let it be the Pro Tour in Baltimore, which is one of the most amazing weekends of my life, and I will always remember it. And thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, Pro Tour Baltimore is one of my greatest memories ever as well. Thanks so much, Alex. It's been great chatting.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having us. Pro Tour Baltimore. You guys already said it. I had a good time too, but you guys said it really well, so I'll leave it at that.